Greetings, I'm Barrett, and welcome to Meet Me at the Table. Today we're going to be doing an unboxing of Orc Quest. It comes in 2 boxes. This is my all-in pledge that I pledged for a while ago, and from how I understand, if I remember right, it did well. It got funded, but then it kind of went into oblivion for a while. It was re-brought back out with a little help from some shipping. The backers were able to get this, I believe. So this is my all-in pledge. We're going to be unboxing this. In this unique dungeon crawler, you're going to be taking on the role of orcs. You're going to be technically the bad guys, but you know, it's only from the good guys' point of view that they're bad guys. So technically, they're the good guys going against the humans and other races who are technically, I guess to them, the bad guys. So it's a unique take on this dungeon crawl experience. I'm excited to unbox this, show you everything in both of these boxes, and if you are too, then I need you to meet me at the table. From how I understand it, this would be technically the core box. So let's open it up and see what's inside. We'll take off our lid. It is a rather big box. As you can see, it's a whole like hand-sized tall, which is pretty cool. So there's a lot of content inside this box, including space for air. Let's continue on. We've got Gorbag's Tales. We've got a quest book. We've got a fantastic picture with, it looks like, the hero turn summary here, which is going to be able to help you get through each of the rounds. And then we have our rule book as well. So there's 4 books inside of this core box. Just to go through what's in some of these books, the Gorbag's Tale, from how I understand it and what it looks like, is it has about 5, I believe they're going to be like kind of one-shot missions that you can play through. And then in the back here, it does have a written comic that you can read. I bet it's a pretty funny comic, because of course it's written by orcs and things, so I'm sure it's the whole comedy of this whole thing will be really awesome. Now, I haven't read through this, so I'm not exactly sure if it's a comic or if it's kind of a learn to play or what it's all about, but I think it's going to be absolutely awesome to go through. So that's what's in Gorbag's Tale. And of course, the quest book is an overarching campaign that spans multiple chapters that go through multiple quests in a chapter with a few boss battles here and there. And it tells you exactly how to set up all of your quests that you're going to go through, potentially major NPCs that you're going to be fighting against, how you're going to put your reserves in and where they're going to go, and of course as a main objective. And the cool thing is it even has a secondary objective as well. So it's kind of nice. That tells you everything you're going to need for the adventure before you have to get out there. So I just want to show you that first adventure, because of course that's the first one you're going to do. It does show the 4 different types of characters. I think maybe there's more. We'll find out as we go through this, but those are the 4 I'm guessing core characters in this game. So we'll put that aside and we'll continue on. It looks like we have all of our punch board components here. Our first set of punch boards here do show a lot of different enemies that you're going to be fighting, and I do want you to be aware, if you notice there's little arrows on these enemies, there is facing does matter in this game. There's only 2 facings, one in front and one behind, and they are dual-sided, because when you place these out on the board, you're going to randomly mix up what is going to be placed there, and you're going to place the token down, so you won't know its exact facing until you actually resolve or show the token. We also have potentially some traps over here, and then we have some different types of conditions along the side as well. Going to the next one, it's going to be very similar. Again, we have more monsters or enemies of some kind, or even allies. I'm not sure which is which. I believe the greens potentially may be allies, or maybe they're harder. As you can see, the green ones do flip over to, I believe, more of a unconscious state that you can maybe bring them back. Now, do notice there's some tentacles here. We don't want to probably deal with the tentacles, unless that's part of our group. If we like tentacles, then that's fantastic. Here again are a bunch of rat figures, or rat maybe enemies that you're going to be fighting. Again, not knowing the location of how they're positioned in particular rooms, and I'll show you a little bit more about that in just a second. We're going to continue on with some more of the punch boards. We do have some of the different types of tiles that you can play onto the board as you're playing through it. Here again are more. They come out pretty well, it looks like, nice and good. There's like the skeleton right here, and I believe and of course you can use these standees, or you can use, these tokens to represent the enemies and even yourself, I believe, or you can use the miniatures that are provided in this game if that is part of your pledge. I believe they all came with it. I'm not sure. I don't know 100%. I know mine is, because it's kind of an all-in pledge. Let's continue on. So you do need to originally use these, though, in order to figure out what facing the miniature is going to be in, and then you can replace that with a miniature as you go forward. We do have some more tiles here we're going to get to soon, but first I want to talk about this. This is really a unique system. I think this is really cool. First, we've got a couple markers down here. This is going to mark the reinforcement track, I believe, and this is going to mark your kind of board that has the amount of power that you can use during your turn. It's called the badass track, and it's probably the last time I'm going to use that term, so I can continue making this as close to a family channel as I can. I'm going to call it more of like a rage kind of concept, and I'll show you the track soon. But this right here is really cool. You're going to punch this out and assemble this, but you're going to assemble this based on the size of the room that is in potentially your quest book. So say, for example, we walk into this room and it says 3 here. I believe that means we're going to spawn 3 enemies or 3 of something. We're not sure what's going to be in there. We're going to spawn 3 things in that room. And to figure out where they spawn, you're going to create that size of room with these different templates here. And you're going to create that in there. And then you're going to drop dice into that created space. And where the dice land is where you're going to place the 3 tokens. And then once you reveal the tokens, you'll know the origin facing. And if they're even enemies, they could be maybe a trap in there. There could be a treasure. Who knows what's inside the room until you get in there. But I think it's a really unique system of not knowing exactly where anything is going to be placed in the room. You just drop these dice into that already created space on this board, and that's where they're going to be. I think that's really cool. All right, we're going to move that aside. We have a few left. These are some overlays for some of the rooms right up here. And if your token that you're supposed to place is put on an overlay based on the dice drop roll here, then you're just going to, the group gets to decide where you want to place that token. So if one was here, we'd be able to place it anywhere next to it if we wish to. It's, of course, our choice. We do, again, have more conditions right here, some more enemies. And these right here are our player characters, which, like I said before, I think you can use these in place of miniatures if you wish to. It's your call. Now, some of these things that are going to be out on the board are going to be blocking line of sight, and some are not based on the height of it. For example, I'm sure like these barrels and things do not block line of sight when it comes to things, but larger things, maybe like a full desk or even this thing right here, I'm sure would block line of sight, of course. That'll be told to you as you're playing through the game. This right here is called the bell icon. This is important because as you are going through the game, you're going to have different things alerted to your presence. And once they're alerted to your presence, certain groups of heroes, or I shouldn't say heroes, enemies, are going to go after that bell. And if they can ring the bell, more reinforcements are going to be able to be brought into the fray, and the reinforcement track will go up faster. So it's something you want to prevent the person that's called the bell ringer and try to stop him from ringing that bell. Continuing on, we still have some more tokens. Now, of course, like I said, these are all dual-sided and have that other side here. And again, even the layout tokens are dual-sided as well. These are entrance areas right here, entrance and exits from what I understand. And we'll continue on to the last few boards we have. Again, more different tiles we can lay down. We have some pillars and things here, but I think there's also some trees, even broken pillars. And again, more of our, I guess you could say, heroes and villains here, tokens that we can place out onto the board. And we have one final tile that is very similar to a lot of the other ones we've been looking for. Again, different terrain pieces, different presence tokens you're going to be placing down on the board. And again, exit and entrance tokens. And we even have an Orc Warpath one right in the middle with some different conditions. And I believe this is damage tokens down there. With those punch boards taken care of, let's look at some of the map tiles in this game. We have a few that we're going to have to open up. No, actually, more than a few. Look at this, all these tiles. This is going to be awesome. I'm just going to quickly go through them so you can see them a little bit. We have some overland tiles here, and it looks like some dungeon type looking tiles, like you're infiltrating something. We're going to continue on. Here we have like a nice garden up here. And when you set up your map tiles, the game itself will tell you how to do it. So for example, it might say set tile 1A like this and a 2A like that, and they're going to kind of create your own board. So it is a different every time. I shouldn't say different every time, but it's not just one board. You're going to be creating your space to play based on the tiles that it asks you to put out here. Again, more farmland area and dungeony type stuff. We're going to continue on. Another nice little area here. And these, if you notice, don't have any doors. You're going to be putting down those little door tokens that you saw on the punch boards to represent where the doors for each of these are. So again, it can be a little bit different depending on. You could have this out here one time and have a door over here, where a second time you could play it with an adventure with the door over there, and it'll be a little bit different. Oh, that's kind of a cool tile. It'll be on the throne room. Let's go to the throne room. That'd be kind of neat. And here's the last one. This looks like a nice little. Now these, of course, are all trees, which are going to deal with line of sight and range. There's two different types of things. There's line of sight and line of fire, and each one is going to be able to deal with different. It'll block in different ways, and you'll see that when I do a playthrough of this at one point. Here's again. Wow, that's kind of a nice little tile. Now that's the end of those. We do have some kind of smaller ones here. Again, more outdoorsy type stuff and dungeon type stuff. And then if we flip them over, it's the same type of dungeony stuff and more outside stuff for these two tiles here. Continuing on, we have some really smaller tiles that are going to be used. Will tell me if, of course, any of these are going to be placed down. So, for example, this might be put down to remove one of the buildings from the board. I think if we had a smaller building or something on one of these, you'd be able to cover that building up if at some point in one of the adventures, maybe. Here's, again, ways of covering up things or adding to certain boards. Here are the two boards that I need to talk about. This one is, like I say, this is the BA board right here. It starts at 30, and you're going to be using these points to not only activate certain abilities on your characters, but you can use them to buy skills and a whole bunch of other things in the game. And this is a stat that's going to be tracked through the campaign, and it's going to be going up and down as you play through it. So whenever you use some, you're going to lower it. But say you kill off a couple of enemies, you might get some of them back. And the person who does deal the final blows, the ones that are getting some of these back from what I understand. And then this is the alert board. And as this goes up, of course, it's going to be bringing more and more enemies onto the board and making them tougher. So like the ones down in this area might just be like a peasant and a dog. Where if you get into this area, it might be like 2 dogs and a peasant. Then finally, if you have 3 dogs and a peasant, you have to deal with, oh my gosh, so many people you got to deal with. And so you want to try to keep that as low as possible. So you want to try to get that bell ringer, like I said earlier. Here again are more tiles that we can use. Oh, look, a decrepit, destroyed building here. Oh, that looks like a neat little spot. Now let's continue on here. Let's look again, more ruin type things. And we have a whole like cave we can make. Look at this. We can make a whole cave with this one. Of course, I'm not sure if that's how it all used, but you can. And of course, the cool thing about these is you could even use these in potentially some other type of games if you wanted to. If you have any RPGs you're using, these would be fantastic tiles for that. I mean, you could make a whole little crypt area here if you wanted to. That's pretty awesome. All right. And of course, we have a couple of these. I'll probably want to keep these because it probably is going to keep everything from rattling around in the box. And then we have our miniatures for this game. This game does come with miniatures. These are the Orc Quest Warpath miniatures. Let's see what they look like. Okay, if I can even open it. There we go. Now, of course, these aren't painted. These are assembled, though. And, oh, my gosh, there's a million miniatures in this thing. Oh, my gosh, I don't know if I'm able to paint all these. But here's the dogs that they have. These are actually really cool dogs. They're a lot different. Now, of course, just remember, this is going to be a lot of the enemies that monsters you're going to find are actually going to be normally the good guys in this. So you have a lot of human spearmen that, for example, which are pretty awesome. And like I said, normally you can fight against like wolves or something, right? Well, in this one, we're fighting against dogs. We're fighting dogs. We have, oh, this guy looks pretty cool. It looks like a knight. Now, of course, that's an amazing looking thing there. We do have some of those rat type creatures right here. These are like kobolds or something. I'm not sure. We'll have to see how this plays out. We have a guy standing with a big giant spear here, which is awesome. And when you do fight in this game, you have different ranges you can fight with. You can either attack adjacently or then, and everything is basically orthogonal from how I understand it. Like when determining range and attacks and things like that. So if you're range of 1, you can attack anywhere around your character. If you're just a melee character, you can only attack in the cardinal directions. And you might even have something that says like range 2 to 6, which means you can't fire it right around you. You have to actually be far enough away to be able to make that happen. So here's a few of the miniatures right there. And then we're going to continue on to these down here. We'll see what these are. Well, now they're a mess. That's okay though. We've got, looks like some archers, and it looks like, oh, we got wizards as well. Oh, they got a lot of wizards. Normally you only need 1 wizard. There's a whole bunch of wizards here. I hate to fight all these wizards at one time. Oh my gosh, that's a lot of fireballs. They do have some archers, which are kind of neat. Now these miniatures I wouldn't say are top-notch grade A material, but they're going to work and they look fantastic. So I'll be able to use these without any problem. We do have, I don't even know. Oh, these look like more of the rat type creatures that we might fight, like maybe gnolls or kobolds or something. They're up there. They have more of them, as you can see throughout here. They even have some, and I believe each one of these are going to be like a different type of kind of class, I should say, but it's going to be a different type of rule set for those miniatures, is my guess. And there's a lot of these things out here. Oh, and then this must be one of the, like, I'm sure like one of the main bosses because there's only 1 of him. I'm sure that's how that works. All right, that is the end of those miniatures. I will put them away and move on to the next set of things in here. Okay, I just made an absolute mess again. We'll put those right over here and we'll go on to the next thing. Again, more miniatures. Let's see if I can make these a mess. That'll be awesome. Let's open this up and see what we get. More miniatures. It is number B. So these are going to be different miniatures. These are going to be our heroes. This is fantastic. All right, let's see if I can find the heroes of our adventure. I don't think it's going to happen. All right, I believe this is one of the main heroes of our adventure right here. These do not look like orcs. Remember, we are looking for orc-type creatures. I think this is another one. And from what I understand, if you're playing, you do have to play with 4 characters. I do want to make that clear. I believe you have to play with 4 from what I understand. I don't think there's a variant for like 1 or 2 or 3, being able to control just 1, 2, or 3 characters. So do be aware of this. I think this is another one of our characters that we get to play with. And I believe you're going to have like a main warrior, a thief type character, or not character, but like a stealthy type character, a wizard type character. And I'm not sure what the other character you're going to have is, but these are either going to be enemies or that you're going to be fighting at the end like boss type monsters, or they're going to be, oh my gosh, look at this thing. This thing's pretty awesome. Now this might be one of those ones from the gore bag thing that you have to fight. Well, look at this. This is the cockatrice miniature, and of course the wings are going to snap right in. That'll be pretty awesome. All right. Those are those. What is this? This thing looks pretty sweet. This is like a war dog of some kind. Yep, that looks pretty awesome. All right, put that back. But these are the miniatures you're going to get. And of course, the green ones, I believe, are going to be good guys, where the gray ones, I think, are bad guys. Of course, I may be wrong about that. I do not know. We're going to put all this stuff away. And now we're going to move over to the other box. Moving into the second box, I do want to say that at the beginning, I said that there's a core box and this must be the expansion box. That's not true because I didn't see any of the player cards in that last box. So from what I understand, the All-In Pledge does need both of these boxes. I'm not sure what you would get if you do not have that pledge and your pledge is different from an All-In Pledge. I don't know what the situation for you would be. But for me, since it's all in, I put everything in both of these boxes. You do need both of these boxes. They do have 2 expansion sets of material here, so you can have a whole nother story arc here if you're interested. It also has a Beasts in the Woods scenario. It has some stuff for Elven. There's an Elven chapter. I think it's all the same. So they have a whole bunch of different quests you can do. And Greedy and Doomed quest. Oh, there's that dude. He was in the other box. So he is an enemy and he's in here. So these are, I believe, I want to say these are expansion things, but maybe they just gave everybody everything. I'm not exactly sure. Again, 100% I can't answer that. We have the Royal Mine. So here is the different dwarves. And this would explain why there are tokens for creatures I didn't really understand that were in the core box, because what I thought was a core box is because here we go. We got some of the undead now. This is going to be the crypt one. And we already saw the tokens for them in the other box. So all the tokens and everything are in that box, even for the stuff that's for what I thought was the expansion material. We do have a whole bunch more miniatures we're going to quickly take a look at. I don't know how in depth we're going to go on these miniatures, but we'll see what we can see here. We have pink miniatures now. That's something. We've got, I don't think I've ever seen anything cast in pink before. That's amazing. Now, when it comes to painting, I will say colored miniatures are sometimes a little bit harder to prime because it's easier to prime gray miniatures because I do prime in gray. Where if I prime in black or white, it may be a little bit tougher to put over the pink, but that's okay. We'll see what we can do with this. Again, a full set of miniatures here that you can use. It does have these skeletons right here that will go with our undead scenarios if we wish to play those. Now, I believe they're all standalone scenarios where, I mean, each time you go through the campaign, you'd start again if you try to do a different campaign. I could be wrong about that. I don't think your characters persist along different campaigns. All right, let's see what these are. These look like they're going to be more of the boss miniatures that you're going to be fighting. And again, we have these miniatures here, which could be potentially new heroes or more harder bad guys or something. Wow, if this is a hero miniature, that's out of control. All right, that's amazing. And of course, we have this huge giant thing right here. We might have to fight at some time. That looks pretty awesome. And then it looks like these are, I bet, going to be from the dwarves. The dwarves are going to have their own thing here. These, I bet, are dwarves attacking us because this looks like a very dwarven type machine. Yep, he's sitting right there in the cockpit. That's pretty awesome. So again, we have, it looks like more dwarves down here. Huh, interesting. Okay. So those are the miniatures of that stuff right there. We'll put those to this. Well, actually, I'll put them right back in the box. Why wouldn't I put them back in the box and then I don't have to worry about it? Now, I'm kind of sad that I don't have a top for this one, for example, because I could see those being shaken all over the place because, as you saw in the last box, I am not the most... I don't take, I'm not exactly, I'm a little clumsy. All right, let's see what's in this. Again, we're going to probably save these because you can see we'll be able to hold those in place. These are going to be tiles, I bet, specific for these extra scenarios that we saw earlier. And then it does look like we have places to put all of our different chips and everything. These do come off. These are, we're going to be able to put all the different chips that we have, which is going to be good. And here's a lot of the paper components that I was thinking we would be finding in the core box. So like I said, it looks like it just combines everything working together. They do have custom dice. I'm going to explain these dice a little bit, but I think instead of explaining the dice, I think it'd be better to show off some of the cards, and then I can explain the dice as we look through some of these cards. But before we look at those, we did have those new different tiles we can look at. I'm sure some of these are going to be for the undead type thing, like we got a whole crypt right here, which we're going to have to go through, and wow, even a cemetery. That's kind of cool. And I'll bet there might be some dwarven type things we're going to find. Oh, I bet some of these kind of go together. Oh, look at this. There's like a whole, oh my gosh, I can hardly wait. I bet some of these are going to flip over to the other side. Yeah, look at that. We can have like a pit that we fight in. Oh, a fighting pit. Orc needs fighting pits, of course. Roar, orc fighting pit. And these, like I said, are going to kind of all match together based on your scenario. So you're going to have like a big giant dungeon that you can crawl through, which would be really cool. Look at mine cars for the dwarves. They could match up like this or something and have different mine shafts all together, which looks pretty cool. All right, those are the tiles that this box came with. Now let's look a little bit at these cards. Here are the first set of cards. These are going to be all hero cards. I was surprised at how many hero cards are in this thing. This is, I believe, just the core. Again, a core versus not core is a little bit hard to talk about, but these are the ones this is kind of the 4 that the game kind of is based on. All the pictures and everything have to do with like this one, this one, this one, and this one. But so we're going to talk a lot about those. But there are so many other ones. And on top of that, it shows you right here that this is like an orc warrior. We have an orc ranger. We have an orc thief. Goblin thief, and then we have a hobgoblin warlock. So those are like different classes you can play. Now each character that you have, I'll quickly go through this little card here, has a passive ability that you can use. It has a little catchphrase down here, and then right here, this is going to be pretty interesting. It shows you how much you can carry, but it also shows you how much you can carry on your character when it comes to what you can wear on its body and how much weight it can hold in its hand. So some of the other characters aren't going to be able to hold as much. For example, our goblin thief can't hold a lot in his hand, so his weapons are going to be very smaller and probably built more for just being able to be quick. You'll notice it shows your starting gear here, 2 daggers. I bet each of those are going to be worth 1 weight on the hands, so that character wouldn't be able to hold any more, where this guy could probably hold a huge giant tree trunk in his hand and swing it around. He does start with a sword, but I wouldn't doubt if you get a tree trunk. This one gets a bow, 2 daggers, and a staff, and it tells you a little bit about kind of what they do. Melee, ranged, agile. This one's magic, immune to alterations. This one's about melee and smashing, and this one's about range and agile. So it gives you an idea a little bit about what you're getting into when you choose the character you want. And if you notice, there's health values down here, and they're different colors. And there are different colors on the dice themselves when it comes to how you're able to hit a person or block an incoming attack. And whatever you roll on the dice is going to determine how much damage you're going to do. The yellow is the weakest, the orange is the second weakest, and then there's ones that are red, which are going to be found more on the gray and black dice. And these do escalate in the amount of how good the die is. So the white is the weaker one, where a gray one is more powerful. And as you can see, it has red, orange, and yellow. And interestingly enough, as you roll these, you're also going to roll your defense and things of that nature. And once that's all been resolved, you then are going to take damage. But you're only going to take damage if if you're being wounded by something that's of or better than your normal defense on your character. So for example, if this was the only die left after an attack, this character actually wouldn't take any damage because this one isn't a yellow stat. But if it attacked, and this was the last thing we saw on Meek, for example, he would take the 1 damage because it's equal to his normal defense on his thing. Now, of course, you're also going to have cards and equipment that's going to augment that as well. So I think it's kind of a neat little system here. And of course, like I said, there's a whole bunch. We have a priestess, we've got a priest, we've got a hunter, and we've got a brute, this troll brute. We've got a druid. Once per turn, he can protect by adding 1 orange defense to his defense. Like I said, that's going to be able to prevent some of that damage coming through. We have an orc paladin. That's pretty awesome. I'm going to try the orc paladin. That sounds pretty awesome. We have a ranger. A brute. Oh, look at this, a brownie assassin. That sounds pretty awesome with 2 sabers. That sounds pretty cool. And a brute. So there's a whole bunch of, like I said, player characters just from there. Now the other set has characters as well. We've got an orc warrior here. We've got gnome artificers. Now these are all player characters you can play with. And they're not double-sided, but that's okay. I don't know if they would be or not. But here's that gargoyle brute we looked at, and I was like, oh my gosh, I could be this gargoyle brute. When fortified, he gains an extra attack die. Now, of course, I'm not exactly sure how that all plays out. I don't know all the keywords yet in this game, but that sounds pretty awesome. Now let's go to the hero cards, the enemy cards, I guess you could say. And as you can see, it shows kind of what you're going to do based on your activation. So when it goes to activate, you're going to roll that die. And based on what symbol you get, it's going to do a particular thing. Now, interestingly enough, if you had both of these together, you would have to activate them, and you're going to activate them based on the best die roll possible. So the gray, I believe, is better than white, so the gray one would be the one that's rolled to see what happens. For example, if you had the guards and the peasants together in a group, you would roll 2 gray dice and then consult the tables and see what you get. On top of that, it shows you their health values down here, their movement. This is the amount of loot cards you get when you destroy them, and this is the amount of BA points you're going to gain if you are able to defeat these enemies. So for example, defeating some of the more soldiers and stuff, you're going to gain loot and more points, where defeating a peasant really isn't that glorious, but at least you get a loot for it, which isn't that bad. Now the officers, of course, are going to be more powerful, and they're going to creep up in damage and power as you go. The cockatrice is considered a boss monster. It will have its own deck based, and that'll also affect how it is going to do in the game. We have gnolls. Those are some of the ones in the other ones. Here's some wargs. Oh, that's what those were. Those were warg miniatures. All right. So again, the rat creatures here. So it does have all the different enemies. We have some of the elves right here. I'm sure some of the undead are going to be in here at some point, but here's some of those. So these are all the different heroes that you're going to be fighting, or I should say heroes, enemies you're going to be fighting. In here, we've got some of the berserkers. We have there's a whole story about the tribe coming in here, like a barbarian type tribe that are coming in. We have the dwarves right here. Here's the undead. We have zombies and skeletons and mummies. We have all these different things. Here's some pork hunters. We have I guess you fight pigs in this game. Oh, that's awesome. And then we have these huge giant, the Tarask, or that's out of control. If for those that play Dungeons & Dragons, you would know what that is. And maybe if you don't, you might still know what it is. It's a huge giant evil monster from Dungeons & Dragons, which is out of control. Now we have a lot of these cards. Again, I don't know how many of these cards I'm going to go through, but at least I can show you a little bit about some of these cards so you'll have an idea of what you're going to get into if you decide to pick this game up. And also, I wanted to go through some of the dice. I showed you the white dice and things of that nature, but there are a few other ones out here. For example, this is the enchantment die. You're going to be able to enchant certain weapons, and based on your roll, the enchantment will take effect. The blue die is going to be another die that's used for the enemies. As you saw in some of the cards, they had that on there, and I think that's all there is for these. So of course, when you make your attack or defense of some kind, you're going to roll to see what you get. So they do have defense dice versus offense dice that you're going to roll and try to block and attack things. So just put those dice aside. I think you get the idea. The first set of cards are going to be this one. I'm just going to open this one up to show you what these are. And it says, say, box 1 of the core box. So it did have technically a core box and an expansion box. But like I said, everything was kind of put in both boxes. So there wasn't technically a core box, which is really odd. First off, every character is going to get a set of ability cards that they're going to be able to get. So we're going to go through, actually I think we're going to use, I'm going to grab the warriors again, because that might be a little bit more straightforward as to how this all plays out. Of course, if his are in here, I'm sure they are. So the first thing it comes with is a couple cards that are going to go into an event deck. And these are going, because after every person's turn, you're going to draw an event, and and events are going to affect most likely the character that is drawn in here. It says here, so on a lightning bolt orifice inflicts 1 automatic damage to an adjacent hero. So for example, he's nervous and breaks down, because you never know, orcs are a little bit out of control sometimes. Now this number here shows how much it would cost in BA points in order to be able to gain access to this card. But once you spend the points, everybody across your entire group gets to buy a card of that power. So say we all decide to buy a level 10 card, I'd be able to choose one of these and take that with me. Now you do start with 3 core cards. The core cards you start with are going to be like a move, a combat, and then a particular card for your character. Now, if you notice down here, these are going to show you what it could do. It can move 6 or move 9 based on how many activation points you use. You have 2 activation points each turn. So I could use this to move, or I could use this one to combat as a move and attack if I wish to. Or for this one, I could use an activation to charge 1. Now, interestingly enough, if you notice down here, it says combo 1. You can combo cards into each other. Let's see if he has any in his deck. I'm sure he does. I'm going to try to grab some of the 10s, and it might have some cards here. Well, actually, it's going to be able to show some other cards. So these are actions right here. These are reactions you can play against things. These are passives, so this will always be active. Let's see if I can. Do you have other passives as well? Hopefully, we can find ones that combo into each other. Those are the actual cool ones that you can do. Here's one, for example, that says combo 2 on it. So the way this works is you can play a card for an activation cost. If you're able to hit something or do damage with this particular card, you can combo into one for free without having to pay its cost, from how I understand it. And then if that is able to charge it and deal damage of some kind, you could go into a combo 2 card for free and be able to do what it says. So it's pretty awesome to be able to continue in your, and I may be mistaken if it's free or not. It probably isn't. You're probably probably still have to spend maybe the BA points that are associated with it, but it's pretty cool that you can combo these together, which is pretty neat. I think that's a really cool game mechanic, is not only do you get your 2 activations, you can then combo into cards, which is important because you want to be strategic. Even though you're an orc, you still want to have like some kind of strategy. So each character does have a set of cards like that. They come with 2 of these event cards and then a lot of different ability cards that you can spec your character in many different ways. Now, when you use an ability, let's say you do an action with your card, then you would flip it over and you won't have access to it for the rest of the turn. You'll get it back though eventually, but I believe at the start of the next turn, but you don't have access to it again. You can only use the actions once, unless of course the passive that is always active. The next set of cards is going to have our loot and relic stuff in them. For example, here is our loot. This is a crossbow. I'm going to just give you an idea of how this card works. The crossbow itself, it shows you where it's used in the hands. It's a loot card. It costs 3 in the hand. So again, remember, you can only carry a certain amount in your hand. It's a range 2 to 6. You're going to roll these dice, and then as +2 range. I'm not exactly sure how that works. Now down here is interesting. Say you do not want this. Say you decided this crossbow is bunk. It's not something you want. You can destroy it by flipping it this way, and you can break it pretty much and grab resources from it. And then at some point you can then use these resources to craft something else. For example, you can then use these for, say I had this bow and I really liked it. I could use 2 of these, and if I get 5 more and 4 of these orange things, I could then level this bow up if I wanted. These cards are also level 1 cards, and of course as you go through, like I said, you can upgrade these and potentially get better cards. These are all level 1 cards. These are resources you can gain that again will help you be able to level up your equipment. There's some potions in here that you can use to heal yourself. These are fragments of power. These are going to be used to augment your weapons as you go forward. This apparently is some kind of, these might be like one-time use things, these of some kind. They have arrows of cockatrice. That's amazing. These are going to be things you can use, and then of course you can break them for enchantments if you wish to. Wow, those are pretty cool. All right, so those are some of the relics and the loot cards that you can get. And then continuing on, we have ourselves some craft level 2s and some enchantment cards. So this is, like I said, if you upgrade that crossbow, you would then upgrade to this point right here. Let's see if we can find some of the enchantments. Here are the enchantments. This is the way it works. So you'd put this enchantment on this side, and once it activates, if I inflict 22 damage, I guess, then I can activate the enchantment, and the enchantment then would become active for that weapon, which is kind of cool. You'll gain this ferocity bonus, which is pretty neat. I think this is going to be pretty cool. Be the target of 4 attacks, 1 enemy, and then you'll be able to gain that thing. So you have to put those on the enemies, and once you abide by what is on the cards, then you can have that happen. But if you roll and you're on this side, you're still going to gain the benefit of this, and you can have 2 enchantments, 1 on this side and 1 on this side at all times. So you can have enchantments on two different enchantments on something. So enchantments are another way to increase the ability of these weapons and armor that you can find throughout the game. For example, you get your leather here, you can enchant it as well if you wanted to. The last pack of cards is going to be this one from, again, like they say, the core box. It's had events, patrols, and boss cards in here. Here are all the different events. So on top of the events you get from your character, you're going to add in these other events as well. And then when you're told to draw patrol cards, then you're going to draw them from this deck, and things could happen based on what you get. For example, you can, the patrol moves 6 squares. This one, the patrol stops and does nothing but daydream. So depending, and of course, if these patrols eventually see you, other things are going to happen, and they're going to be alerted to your presence, and all of a sudden you're in more combat than you wanted to be, for example. And this one should move along. This one moves 4 spaces. So there are different things here. And then, of course, like I said, the boss monsters here, there's 2 different group bosses in the core boxes, according to this thing. So this is another, these are the ability cards that those characters are going to be able to gain. So there you have it. That is an unboxing of all that is for Orc Quest. Again, I'm going to have to punch everything out and get it into the wonderful spaces here. But there you have it. That is Orc Quest Warpath. It's a game I have been waiting for a while. I do like the few unique systems that are in here. I think the being able to put enemies out with the tiles by dropping dice in an area is going to be a cool thing. I like the different action cards and being able to upgrade your things through different materials that you can find. I think this would be really fun. I'm looking forward to it. There are a lot of characters to choose from. Now, like I said, you do have to play with 4 in your party. I'm not sure how much of a challenge that is going to be for a single player, but we'll see, because I'm going to be trying to get a playthrough of this out right away if I can. I hope you enjoyed the unboxing. If you did, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell symbol so you know when the playthrough for Orc Path comes out. Or sorry, Orc Quest Warpath. Orc Path, it's the Orc Path game. The orcs just go and walk down a path. That would be some kind of game. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you did enjoy it. If you also, I'd love to hear what you have to say about this game. Do you have this game? Did you know about this game? Are you interested in getting a copy of this game? Please let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear from everyone. If you're interested in supporting the channel, please feel free to join my Patreon. The link to that is also in the description of this video. Those that have joined the Patreon already are shown here on the screen. Thank you so much for your patronage. It means the world to me. If you are a member of the Patreon, one of the few of the perks you get are you can watch my playthroughs usually a day before they drop, day or two before they drop without commercial interruptions. On top of that, you can help me decide who and what plays in this game. For example, I will have my Patreons decide what characters, since there's so many of them, which characters we should use in our playthrough. Hopefully they give me a good variety and a group of fun characters to try. Other things we do here on Meet Me at the Table is Colin and I do play live games together about once a week, and I try to do a live painting session to be able to paint up some of the miniatures like these that we use in our playthroughs going forward. So if you're interested in any of that, please take a look at the live tab on Meet Me at the Table. There you have it. That is the Orc Quest unboxing. Again, thank you so much for watching, and if you're excited to see a playthrough of Orc Quest or anything else, then I need you to meet me at the table.